Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan welcoming you back to Season 4 of the Mindshare Podcast. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems and the Buzz Conference. Be sure to follow The Buzz on Instagram at The Buzz Conference and give them a visit at www.thebuzzconference.com to keep up with everything that they are up to. We are proud to have The Buzz Conference as an ongoing sponsor of the Mindshare Podcast. And Kits is always with us. As always, I have to tell you, our team keeps coming up with new ways to make this powerful marketing system even more powerful. I mean, it's one thing to be using a bright, shiny CRM because other people are doing it. It's a whole next level when you use a CRM, which is a complete suite of marketing tools tied right into it. No need for third-party providers, no need for separate email blast systems. All your social media tiles are built right in. Websites, landing pages, an open house registry tool right in your CRM. The most effective keep in touch tools to help you build Mindshare. Seriously, Kits is loaded and you need to check it out if you haven't yet. I warn you though, once you check it out, and you start using it, you're going to be hooked. But I guess that's not much of a warning as much as it is a little bit, well, actually a lot of very friendly advice. Check out Kits by going to my site, mindshare101.com, and clicking on marketing. Now, as you know, we are on a push to get to 100 reviews on iTunes, and I would like to ask you, if you haven't yet, please take 2 minutes, rate the show, leave a review, and of course, we make this super easy for you. All you have to do is go to ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. As always, thank you in advance. Today's episode is number 193. He is a multiple award-winning realtor, working in real estate for almost 10 years. Customer service is the foundation of his business. He says each individual is different and has their own dreams, goals, and targets they want to reach. And he focuses on always doing everything he can to help them get there. And he puts great emphasis on getting to know each client and what they want to achieve, always treating every client like family. Aside from real estate, he has also initiated the Jane and Finch Dreams Scholarship Fund, awarding yearly scholarships to youth from the Jane and Finch community who have been accepted into post-secondary programs, and he also donates to various other groups. One of his passions is coaching youth soccer, and he's also the founder and lead sponsor for the Colo Colo Soccer Club based out of Northwest Toronto. Joining me on this episode of the Mindshare Podcast is award-winning realtor Eduardo Ramon. Eddie, welcome to the Mindshare Podcast.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Oh, man, it's good to have you here, man. I know we've been building up to this for a little while, but dude, you've been doing some amazing, amazing things, man. It is so good to watch your growth out there. Like, you know, watching it from afar, watching it closely, and just seeing you continue to climb, dude. Like, man, you're killing it out there. Congratulations.
I appreciate it, brother, man. And I appreciate our conversations, man. I've learned a lot from you. You're always dropping the gems, man. So keep it going as well, man. You're doing a lot of great things.
Grateful for you, bro. I appreciate that, man. So tell me something. You've been in real estate for a decade. You've won multiple awards. Take us back, though. Where did your first deal come from? What did you do to earn it? Because I think that's one of those things that a lot of people like. You get into the biz, and you got no idea what to do. And so you start just trying a lot of different things. But I mean, now we can look back on that and kind of go, let's break it down. Like, how'd you get the start, man?
For sure, man. We'll take it back to rookie season.
Yeah, there you go. I love that.
No, you know what? It's one of those things that I was so amped, so excited. I got licensed. I joined a brokerage. But then it's like you jump into the deep end without knowing how to swim, right? It's like, okay, now what? Where do the deals come from? Like, then you realize the hardest part of the job is not necessarily the job, but it's actually getting the clientele. So I made the typical mistakes, right? I spent a bunch of money on ads in magazines, newspapers. I try to hit up the Spanish community and take out ads in, like Spanish magazines and things like that. And I realized really quick that without doing any groundwork, you're just throwing money away, right? So then I'm like, okay, I got to switch it up. I started just making calls, literally like what they tell you, right? Build a database and start working the phones. I worked the phones. Thankfully, I had a friend from high school whose parents were selling their condo, and I'm like, hey, you know what? Come in for an interview and we'll see if they want to use you. I went, did all my research, like prepared like crazy. I was so nervous. Long story short, it worked out. And I ended up selling their condo. The brother-in-law bought a house, and I sold another house with their family, and I had like 4 deals in like the first 3 months of the business. So I was like super lucky. But again, then it's a learning curve, right? Because then you realize the ebbs and flows. And I had to learn how to keep the pipeline filled, right? And not, you get happy after that first deal and you're like, sick, this is easy, I'm good now. And then you're like, okay, wait, if this is going to be a career, you got to have the consistency.
For sure, man. So speaking of consistency, then, as you look like, I mean, it's sort of starting from day one back there, which I want to acknowledge to everybody right now that, as I asked that question, I've asked that question many times to many different people. Typically speaking, and I won't say 100% of the time, but typically speaking, I'd say almost 9 out of 10 times, most people, when they tell you the story about where that first deal came from, it will normally be from somebody who you've already got an existing relationship with. Mm-hmm. Right. And same idea right here. So, I mean, now we look at that and we say, okay, we went back from like day one, and we kind of look at where you are today, and sort of in that period of time, where's the success been driven from over the past 10 years now? I mean, what are you doing on a regular basis to, as I like to call it, get out there and build that mind share? What's driving even more business back to you? And I think you might have just dropped some of that just a second ago as you mentioned it, but what is it? What is that big sort of driver for you?
It's a combination of things, right? Like obviously the old school things of like working the phones, that's, people don't do that anymore, even for myself, right? Like if I get a phone call, I'm like, oh, wow, nice to hear your voice. Like it shows that you're putting in that effort. And then second, social media, man, just every day, right? It's the easiest way of being in people's top of mind, right? And keeping your presence there.
Dude, we call that mind share, bro.
Exactly. Right? You say it all the time. You preach it, man. You preach it. It's true. Okay. Like it's one of those things. If you're not at the top of people's minds, it's like they're not. Sometimes it's not for any reason of their own. They might just forget. Like, oh shoot, I forgot Eddie was a realtor. That's one thing I never want to happen. And even if they don't use me, it's not going to be because they don't remember I'm realtors. Because they're whatever personal reasons they have. But 9 times out of 10. They're going to pick up the phone and be like, oh yeah, Eddie, as soon as you think about real estate, you're thinking about me, right? That's always the goal, at least when I'm sharing that mind share or trying to stay at top of people's minds.
But it's true though, man. And I mean, that's exactly it, right? Like we want our name to be synonymous with what we do. And I mean, There's the big concept around mind share. Now it's a matter of like, what are you doing to do that? So you just mentioned, the phone calls. You mentioned the social media, which I mean, to me, you're bang on, man. Most people don't pick up the phone and do what they're supposed to be doing with that anymore. Most people do enjoy getting a phone call, as much as we've heard so many times before. Like, oh man, my clients don't want to be, called or whatever else. But
that's not always an excuse. Some people are like that. But what I'm finding is that because it's become such a novelty, that really nobody really calls people anymore, that when you do get a phone call, like, hey, how's the family? How's your dog? How's the kids? Oh, it's nice. Oh, Eddie actually cares, right? And when you're driven by that genuine care and passion, it's easy. But you said, like, a lot of times I run into realtors like, I hate working the phones, man. I get nervous to call people. I'm like, but that's the nature of our business. If you can't talk to people, then you're in the wrong profession, right? Like, even for your clients, if you're not able to communicate clearly, thoroughly, you're doing your clients a disservice by not being like that.
Man, I couldn't agree with that more. I think that a lot of this is out of the fear. And we know that fear is a major motivator, but fear of what to say, fear of what they're going to say back, fear of, am I going to stumble over my words? And I mean, to anybody tuned in right now that's kind of nodding their head and be like, yeah, that's me. Like, I want to make more. I don't know what to say. I mean, first off, always start with talking about family. I mean, if you're not, don't go in there and like ask about the Blue Jays or talk about the weather and be like, hey, do you want to sell your house? Right. If you're going to talk about family, then make sure you're genuine about that conversation. But much the same I'll say to you though, for those of us that do a lot of phone calls and enjoy the phone, I'll tell you now, when I go to pick up the phone at some point today, when I'm doing my stuff and I'm doing my outbound, the first call, the 5th call is always better than the first. The 10th is always better than the 5th, right? And so the more you get your chops moving, just the more you sort of find your groove on what you want to say and how you want to carry a conversation. But look, man, that goes right back to the top of like, you just got to get started.
But it's like sports, right? Like, you're not going to just go and jump into a game. You're going to warm up. You're going to stretch. It's repetition, right? You're not going to be good off the bat. And again, like, as long as you remind yourself to be genuine and actually care, because if you're not, people have a sense. They're going to sense that you're being ingenuous and that maybe you don't care or you're kind of pretending. So you have to be cautious and ensure that when you're doing things, you're doing it with a pure heart and with good, genuine intentions, and it will come easy. But if you're faking it, people are going to be able to tell, and it's going to be hard for you to do.
Okay, so here, as we talk about, and you mentioned phone calls and you mentioned social media, right? And we look at this, is this purely, a new school business? Like, should people just be focused on the social, on the online stuff? Or do the old school tactics still work? And is the old school needed? And I'm talking like, if we were to compare that phone versus social, or that phone versus, let's say, online ads, what do we think is probably working maybe more than another, or in conjunction with, or for you, what do you find is even, better for your business to drive a lot more mind share?
To be honest, I think it's a combination of both, right? Again, you have to be aware of your demographic, right? So if you have a demographic that's more traditional, you know what? For them, they like receiving a piece of mail, or they want that phone call, right? For you to check in. And then for some of the new, like maybe a younger demographic, it's still the combination, right? Because again, like for you to stand out on social media, it's hard because people, there's a dime a dozen of people spending on ads. And even for myself, I come across countless realtor pages. My personal pet peeve is when you see a realtor page and it's just all houses and real estate stuff. And I'm like, who are you?
Business boring, right?
Yeah, I don't even want to follow you because you look like every other realtor page, right? So you have to make an effort to be, strategically personal with what you share, but be personal, right? Like allow people to a little bit into, okay, who are you? What do you care about? What's important to you? And when you combine that with the phone calls, like, okay, now you can tell that this person's making an effort to stand out, or they're not like the dime a dozen realtors. This guy actually is a little bit different, right? He has a family, he cares. He actually calls me once in a while, right? Like those things are important.
It's actually checking in, building a personal relationship. Like I was just going to ask you, like, what do you feel is truly the most important thing when it comes to achieving more success in this business? And I think, on a personal side, when I look at a lot of this stuff, and you just named it with the Instagram and the feeds and what it looks like, there's a lot of people just chasing online leads. Nobody building a relationship. That is purely a transactional way of doing this business. And we know it's a relationship business. Right. Yeah. You look at those Instagram feeds and they are loaded with houses. And again, I just said it, business boring. Like, who are you? I'm not even interested in following you. And I'm with you 100%. Like I got zero interest in following you. And I'm just going to add on to that if you got like a private profile, we can't even see if you're doing houses or if you're doing personal. We can't see anything. I'm not going to follow you for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when we talk about the overall, like even from Ed, like a mindset perspective, right? What do you feel is truly important to achieving success in this business?
I think you said it before, right? Personal relationships. Again, like I get it, man. It's so tempting and easy to be like, oh, I'm going to pay for online leads and try to convert these leads. But if you're not making the effort in building that personal bond or that personal relationship, you're not going to last. You might have a hot year. You might get lucky for a year, 2 years. But if you want to be in the business for a long run, you need that referral business. And in order to do that, you want to develop these relationships where it's your client and maybe 10 years down the road, their kids are buying from you or their whatever it is, right? But you need that. It takes time. You need to plant that seed. You need to care. You need to put the time in, the sacrifice, and giving into that, feeding that relationship. Or else, you might get a deal off of it. But then if you never call them again, next time they have to sell or next time they're going to buy, they're going to be like, this guy never called me after that. He doesn't even care, right? It was just a deal for him.
So you got to build those relationships with people.
Absolutely.
It's the bread and butter. It's the gold of this. Look, it's the gold in any business when you really think about it, right? Like, why do you go back and buy where you normally buy? Normally, if it's milk and eggs, gasoline, it's out of convenience, most likely. But much the same too. You start to build a relationship. I get people to think about this one, right? Like the grocery store that you go to. And not even you specific, Ed, but just everybody tuning in. Like the grocery store that you go to, do you typically go back to the same one? Yeah. Is there another one down the street? Yeah. So why do you go to that one? I like it. They got better product, or they got the products I want, whatever. So you've built a relationship and you enjoy going back there. And so as long as they continue to serve up what it is that you're looking for, you're going to continue to go back. Now, When we come back to like a people business, which is obviously what we're in, the more you've developed the relationship with real people, the more they're going to want to come back, or they're going to want to tell other people. So, let me ask you this then. Like we mentioned in your bio that you pride yourself on customer service. What's the key to delivering great customer service?
Communication. Communication is absolutely number one. With that, if you're truly listening to your clients, you're going to know what they want. You're going to know what their fears are. You're going to know why they're buying, why they're selling, what's important to them, right? Is it return on investment, or is it, stability somewhere safe for their families? Whatever it is that every individual client is looking for, communication is key. Because if you're able to listen and really pick up, sometimes it's the nuances in between the lines. They might not tell you, but you're able to read, okay, every time I take them out, they mentioned this. They haven't told me it out straight up, but I can kind of see what they're gearing towards. So that is key. And that's what's going to allow you to provide quality service, to provide a great product where, hey, when we're doing something stressful like buying or selling real estate, I like calling Ed because he'll walk me through it, explain things. I know exactly what I'm getting myself into. There's no surprises, and you'll be taken care of, right? And then again, that's how you build that relationship where like, hey, we know when we call this guy, it's easy, it's no stress, there's no problems, pretty straightforward. Yeah, let's call Ed.
Love that, man. Communication right up there at the top. I mean, we talk about that so often. I would say the same thing right now. Important every day, every single day. It's important with your clients. I mean, I would tell everybody, your buyers, your sellers, even if you've got nothing to say to them, get in touch. Remember something. They're doing their every day. They're relying on you to help them with this big transaction that they're doing. And they want to know that you're doing something for them. They want to know that you're there for them. They want to just hear from you. They want to believe that you're even just working. Right. Yeah, so as long as you actually but as long as you sit back and you actually communicate, hey, I got nothing to actually report to you today. I haven't found anything new that you've been looking for. Have you found anything? Have you got any questions? Or it could be hey, nothing to report today. How you doing? Right. But at least they know you're there. And the more communication that you have with them, the more, then you're going to create that tighter relationship.
Exactly.
Right. So talking about, we talked about how you grew up in the business and what you're doing to really find your success here and talking about how you're out there building mindshare, but, more specifically building the relationships with people and connecting with people, communicating with people, priding yourselves on listening to what they really want, so that we can deliver the ultimate customer service. On top of all that and how that's all helped drive more business, I want to bring to light like just an absolutely incredible initiative. And look, everybody's got to understand. I know Eddie. I am not blowing smoke when I say how incredible this is. When I learned about it and actually like properly learned about it, Ed, man, I was blown away at what you were doing with this thing. This initiative you started called the Jane and Finch Dreams Scholarship. Tell us more about this. I mean, for those who aren't familiar, first of all, for those who aren't familiar, describe Jane and Finch for me. So everybody, because we got people listening from, all over North America. I mean, we get fortunate. We got people like in other continents that tune into the show every once in a while. So just describe that for a minute, like why you focus on that area. But what is Jane and Finch for those that don't know?
I have an affinity for it, right? It's where I grew up, born and raised. Socioeconomically, it was, maybe of lower income, a lot of violence growing up in the area that you witness as a kid, and you kind of become immune to it. But more than that, it's a community of just like hard workers, a lot of immigrants who are coming here chasing a dream. And it's basically that, right? It's basically people starting from level zero and with the hopes of trying to build something for their family or for themselves. And, it's, wasn't the easiest always to growing up there, but again, it helps you, it builds character, and if you can come out of there, honestly, I would say like you're capable of doing anything and everything, and you can succeed if you put your mind to it, because if you're able to come out of that, it's like everything else should be easy. Right. So, and the initiative just came out of that, right? I always had a dream of putting myself in a position where I can be able to give back to the community, help out the youth, and again, shed that light, spread that awareness of like, hey, you know what? It's not all bad out there. Just work hard, make the sacrifices, and you can achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. Growing
up and not growing up too far from that area, There's always this connotation around it of yeah, exactly that. I mean, to put it into one word, violence, right? Just a lot of that going on. A dangerous neighborhood to be in. Been through there. I've had friends that live there, and for me, did not grow up there as you have, and haven't seen it firsthand, haven't lived it. The assumptions that I can make, the presumptions that I could make about that is that it's certainly difficult, and there's probably not a lot of hope for a lot of people, and more so because of just the upbringing itself of, when you go out in your day to day and you see a lot of people who maybe, are having troubles, maybe people that are not making it, maybe people that just don't typically have the drive to make it. That becomes a reflection of, I mean, we talk often about, you're a byproduct of like the 5 people you spend the most time with. Right. When you're growing up in situations where, again, there's just not a ton of success, and there's just a bunch of negatives, maybe, in the environment, right? It starts to, shed onto others.
Yeah. Well, the odds are basically stacked against you. And I think we talked about in private, where it's like, even the conversations are different, right? Nobody,
people's mentalities, motivations.
Exactly. It's a lot of times it's very short-sighted, and through no fault of their own, right? It just, if you're not brought up like that, or if your family isn't affluent or prone or educated on certain things like investing and things like that, it just makes things a little bit difficult. And once you get out of those circles, and I remember for me, it was going to university. I started meeting people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, and then I started having different kinds of conversations where it's like, oh, like, yeah, we're going to our cottage or to our condo in Florida. I'm like, condo in Florida? What? What do you mean? Yeah, I'm like, oh, and then I started asking questions. But how did they get that? How did you guys even get to that level? And then slowly through having those conversations, asking questions, you realize there's a whole other world outside of your community or outside of Jane and Finch, where you think like that's the end all and be all. Right. And I think that's something that at least I try to do when I go back to the community, is spread that awareness, educate kids on the other side of the world, where it's like, hey, like, sky's the limit. It's just not as impossible as you think. It's just, you have to organize yourself, make proper investments, learn how to invest, things like that.
Okay. So looking at that, because I love that there, you've been in that environment. You saw it from that side, and then all of a sudden it's almost like the light bulb went off and you saw the other side. What drove you to kind of get yourself to where you are? And I mean, again, from the one mindset to the next mindset, I mean, was there something that triggered that to make you believe that, hold on a second, like, we're living in like a square box over here. We can totally step outside this box. All we got to do is like literally take the step and do it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, when one of my best friends he was basically killed, he was murdered, I just kind of had an epiphany where I'm like, hey, life is short. I don't want my life to just be in this little box. And like, there has to be something else out there. And that just always drove me to really maximize my potential, maximize life, and really accomplish as much as I can possibly accomplish, because losing someone that young really puts life into perspective, where like, you can be gone tomorrow. What are you going to do? Are you going to, just pretty much settle for whatever it is your reality is at that time, and not strive or push yourself to achieve everything you possibly want? And for me, that was the trigger, right? And since then, I just been slowly trying to evolve. And luckily, I, came across real estate, learned about real estate, got licensed, and it's a career that, when I talk to other realtors, I say, like, this is the one career, like, other than sports or anything else, where like, the sky is the limit if you drive yourself. Like, there's nothing you can't accomplish. And sometimes I even get inspired from other people in my office, where I see other people doing amazing things. I'm like, yeah, they can do it. I can do it. Like, you can do it too, right? Like, literally, like, if you really push yourself and commit to really learning the career, learning the craft, putting in the effort, there's nothing you can't do, which then allows you to do, things like give back to the community or whatever it is your why or your mission is. It provides for that.
You can do it. I love that. Something, I don't know, I think I've shared that with you, but I tell Joshua and Leah that every night of their entire life, just before they go to bed, I remind them, you can do it. And Leah will come to me, Daddy, I can't do it. I'll look at her and she'll just be like, well, I can.
That's not the vocabulary.
It's just like, don't tell me you can't. Yes, you can. Let's figure that out, right? If you need some help, I'm here, but we got this. Yeah. So I great point right there. So tell me this then, what is the initiative focused on? I mean, you just gave us, kind of an idea of what the neighborhood and why, but more specifically, Jane and Finch Dreams. What is the initiative focus on? And again, I mean, kind of getting a sense of why you started it already, of course, but tell us a little bit more about that, please, or a lot more about that. I want people to know about it. I want people to really understand what's going on there.
Well, for me personally, I mean, when I was going into university, obviously it's a big financial burden on the family, right? And I'm one of 6 sons for my parents, so it wasn't easy for them to have to put all of us through it, right? So I'm like, it was one of those things that thankfully I had won a bursary too going into university, and it helped a lot. And then I think back on my university experience, and that changed my life in itself. So getting there was pretty much changed my life, and it was an eye-opening experience. So now that I've been fortunate enough to put myself in a position where I can help or give back and have some kind of exposure in the community where it's not just myself, there's other people who donate towards a cause, and I'm eternally grateful to them for it. It's basically to allow that, right? To allow kids from the community to not have finances be the reason why they don't go to university. And this scholarship is basically awarded to, again, maybe not necessarily the top athlete or the most academically inclined student, but the student who works, volunteers in the community, and is doing their part to uplift and better the people around them.
You've had people go through it. You guys are doing some great stuff with the scholarship. And when you look at it, you say it's not necessarily, for people that have had the best academics or the best athletes or whatnot. I guess one is, how do you actually decide, who is going to benefit from this? And I mean, share a success story with us. Like tell us a story about, because I remember seeing, and I mean, I think it was probably the most recent winner, which was probably, I don't know, when do you hand this out?
Well, this past June for their graduation ceremony.
This past, so I'm thinking, was it this past June or maybe the one I'm thinking about from last year? I don't even remember anymore.
Yeah, so we did handle one out last year as well. It's not easy, man. And that's why it's one of those things that I just want to keep growing and keep developing, because there's so many kids out there who are deserving of it, right? Last year, for example, it was a young lady named Isa Tuberry, and she was an entrepreneur, got accepted into university, came from an immigrant family, same kind of deal, right? Where everyone's working and trying to build themselves up. And she just kind of blew it out of the water. And then this year there was 3 recipients that we were fortunate enough to give to not just one, but 3 people, 3 winners.
Wow.
Yeah, no. And again, it was with the help of the community. It's not just myself, right? I had a lot of people donate and support the cause. And again, like I remember one of the young students, she was pretty much the sole earner of the family. She took care of her mom, was working, still found time to volunteer in the community, got accepted into university. And I'm like, how are you doing all these things at 18 years old? But she's like, I don't have a choice. Like, I'm either going to make it or I'm not going to make it. So I got to make it. And there's countless stories like that where like, there's so many special talented youth that are so deserving. And trust me, choosing is not easy. Like for me, if I could, I'd give it to everyone.
Everybody. Yeah.
But again, yeah, those are our recipients have been like phenomenal and extraordinary people who are, again, like working, going to school, and still finding time to help others around them. Like, those are the kids I want to help, because hopefully 10 years down the road, when they're successful or put themselves into position, they're going to be wanting to give back, and they're going to, pass it forward, pay it forward, and help those who are coming up after them.
It's truly amazing, man. So let's break this down for a second then. You had an idea to give back. You decided to start an initiative. The idea is there. What is the physical step? And I'm not, I'm sure there's a million moving little pieces that come together with it all. But I mean, when you say it's not just you, there is people out there. It is a quote unquote initiative, which means that there is, there's process in the background. There's got to be ways to connect with the people, to get the message out there, to have people interested in getting involved in it. I mean, I got to imagine there's a lot of moving pieces in the background there. How do you actually bring this thing to life?
To be honest, that's why it took me so long in the beginning, because I didn't know how to get started.
Okay. So break that down just from an educational. Forgive me for cutting off. Break it down from an educational perspective for anybody tuned in who understands and is listening to, again, why realtors who give back win more. What was that starting point then? I mean, the idea is there, so that's the starting point, obviously. But then there's an action step.
So last summer, I had this idea. So I'm like, you know what? There was nothing like official. I was just like, I'm going to make these sweaters. I had Jane and Finch Dreams sweaters. I'm going to sell them. Whatever profits I can get from that, I'll match it. And I'm just going to award it to a kid. So I reached out to different principals in the area. I put it out on social media. And, I ended up getting some applicants. And I just said, okay, I'm going to go to the bank, get a bank draft, and I awarded it to the student, because that's the other thing too, right? Like, I don't put stipulations on the recipients on what they have to do with it, because
that's what I was going to. Okay, what they have to do with it. Sorry, go ahead.
For me, it's if you're going to use it for groceries, I'm not going to stop you from using it towards groceries if that's what you need, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? There's no red tape or anything like that. And then this year, I was fortunate enough to team up with the principal of my old high school, Tony Michelle, a great guy as well. And I said, you know what, how can I streamline this so it's not so all over the place, and I can kind of target the community a little more easier and get the word out. And he was so grateful. He was so great about it. He put me in contact with the guidance counselor. And from there, the school put it out, and had a bunch of applicants, and just kind of went from there. And it's still something I'm working towards, kind of growing it and having things a little bit more official and more organized, but I didn't want to stall anymore. So, we're still in the process of getting certified and as an official nonprofit. But right now I'm just doing it because I don't want to waste time. I'm like, say, if I can, even if it's just giving $1,000 out of my pocket and just give it to a kid, right? Because I'm like, hey, if they're going to need it, I'd rather just do that than have to wait for all the official process. But it's definitely in the works.
Hey, man, done is better than perfect, right? We know that, right? There's a lot of people, and everybody tuned in to really, really understand this one. There's a lot of people that want more. Everybody wants more. There's only like a few people that actually do what they got to do to make it happen. So most people won't do jack shit with it. I hope everybody tuned in is not most people, or we can encourage you to not be most people. And Eddie, you are certainly not most people. And that's a powerful thing, man. And you're helping, you're helping impact the lives of many out there. So have you created like a form that people fill out when they want to be part of this thing? Like, is there some formality there? Like if I was, one of these kids and I heard about this, how do I kind of submit for myself to be an applicant for that?
So I make it very easy. I just ask for either an essay submission, 1 page or 2 pages, cool, whatever they want.
Yeah.
Or a video submission, just explaining what it is they do, why do they deserve it, and they'll have the criteria, right? Who it's going towards someone who's working, who volunteers, or exemplifies any way that they're helping better their community or better those around them. And with those 3 criteria, I just say video, essay, whatever you feel comfortable with, and then from there, I sit down, I go through all of them, and pretty much choose who. I hate to say who's more deserving because they're all deserving, but with the limited resources, who I can afford to or to help, right?
Mm-hmm. No, it's amazing, man. It is. It's definitely got to be impacting lives, and I think even from a mindset perspective, for people to understand that there's people out there looking out for them. And as we said this whole way, it's like you grow up with a certain upbringing, understanding one way, and then when you get exposed to the fact that hey, like there's not just that one way, there are other ways. All of a sudden there's that optimism, right? There's that positivity. There's that light at the end of the tunnel, if you want to call it. And I think that, I mean, you guys are evidently, that light at the end of the tunnel for many of these kids.
And that's what
That's
it
some
is.
special stuff, man.
Yeah, man. Sometimes all you need is to know somebody cares.
Yeah, exactly right.
And a lot of us take that for granted because if we have great families or good family backgrounds, we're fortunate because that's a bonus. A lot of people don't. So sometimes just knowing like, oh my, this guy doesn't even know me and he wants to help me. Like sometimes that little light could change someone's life or change their whole perspective on life, right? And for me, I know whenever people have helped me out throughout my journey, I never forget. I never forget, and I'm always grateful, and it inspires me to want to pay it forward to the next people.
Is that why you make the time to do all this?
I have to, man. I have to. Like and selfishly, it honestly, it fills a void in my life, and it makes everything worth it. Like seeing others succeed or seeing the joy or being able to help. That's what makes it all worth it for me. Like it's not the superficial things. It's not the money. It's none of that. It's really truly making an impact.
I was going to ask you that. Like, is this initiative revenue driven? Does it help your business in any way? Is it there purely out of your own goodwill, just wanted to give back because you have the opportunity to do so? I mean, I wanted that. Like, why? What there's so many things to do in life. Everybody complains about how many hats we wear and how busy we are, and why are you making the time to do all this? I mean, I guess you just said it to us, though, and I would have to say, I think it's amazing, man.
1,000%. It just like I think it was a Rock. The Rock. He has a speech where he's talking about like every day he wakes up and he has to put himself back to the hardest moments of his life when his back's against the wall. And when I do that every morning, and it helps me get motivated. But I do that, but then it also reminds me that, hey, like I didn't just do it by myself, and I need to be able to do that for someone else. Because again, when I think about my community, I have this affinity, this love for it, where it's, like I know the kids in that neighborhood have something special in them that if they can go out and really apply themselves, I'm like, we can be in any circle, we can achieve anything. And for me, doing this initiative is 1,000%. It brings me joy. It brings me joy. Now, if it helps my business, that's amazing. You know what? And I don't know, maybe it does. Maybe it helps people think, oh, like, you know what? It's great to see me doing like good things in the community, but that's not my motivating factor, because I feel like if it was, it'd be tainted. It would make it ugly for me. And I'm like, I don't want that. I want, like this to just be something good that hopefully grows and hopefully others carry on down the road someday. And it, leave a legacy for my family, for myself, where it's like, hey, this family always gave back. This family always tried to do the right thing in the community.
Bro, this is what we call the power of reciprocity. Give and you shall receive. And I've said it many times and we know it. Don't give to receive.
Yeah.
Give to give. When you do it genuinely and you do it enough, you might get something back at the end. But if you're doing it to get it back, it's never going to happen. Right. So you got to get your mind right out of that. You're doing this out of the goodness of your heart. You're doing this to help other people. So tell me, why should other agents then think about getting involved in their community? Like, just for our audience that's tuned in, what message would you give to them now to say, do this?
Well, it's one of those things that, like, again, more than anything, it will just help give meaning and purpose, right? Like, obviously, I want to provide for my family and my kids. But if you're fortunate enough, like, hey, like, you got the big house, you have the investment properties, you have the cars, you have the clothes. Eventually, you get to the moment where it's like, now what? Like, this can't be it, right? But if you're able to give back, or you get yourself involved in your own initiatives or support other initiatives, seeing the joy in someone else's face, or knowing that when you go to bed that you're doing your part to help make this world a better place. And as corny as it sounds, but I don't care, it's the truth, right? Like, if you're able to do your part and make this world a better place, you honestly, I don't know how to describe it, but that feeling of euphoria is better than any commission check, than any shopping spree, than any trip. It's more profound, right? And it really makes you, at least for me, it makes me want to get up and go harder every day, because I'm like, hey, you know what? Last year we gave out 3 scholarships. Next year, let's go. Let's aim for 10. But in order for me to do that, I need to be successful. So, and in turn, it helps motivate me. But again, that's not why I do it. But when you combine the both, it's you have this, it just generates this machine within you, right? Like this motivational machine that you just have to keep going.
Okay, so fine, I'm with you. I'm thinking it's a good thing. Maybe I could, go and help some people, but man, I don't have the time. Like, I don't have the time for all this stuff. And like, I mean, I think it's a good thing, but I don't know if like spending my time giving back is really going to help me. And like, what's your message to anybody that's going to tell you that? Like, I don't know. Like, sure, it sounds nice, man, but I don't have the time for all this stuff.
You know what? Then at the same time, you're providing mind share, man. You're doing this. And I'm like, hey, that realtor does a lot of good. Let's give them a call, right? Like, it's more than that. And if you don't, and honestly, when people say they don't have time, everyone has their own personal situation. Like, I know for myself, I got 2 kids, both.
I was about to bring it up right there. I was going to say 2 beautiful girls, beautiful wife. Like, you're a busy guy. The soccer coaching, the foundations, like, man, founder of a soccer club, and this incredible initiative. Where do you make the time for it?
Scheduling. I need that. If I don't have my calendar and my scheduler, then I'm lost. I'm scrambling. But it's key. Like, if you organize your day, you're going to realize, and you really utilize every hour that you're awake for whatever it is you're going to do, there's time. There's definitely time, right? Like I was saying, my oldest daughter, she plays rep soccer 4 days a week. My little one plays soccer 2 days a week, and she's in track and field 2 days a week. I balance real estate full time, right? Like, I'm married too, so we got to schedule in some date nights and dinners and things like that. Right?
You definitely do your date nights and dinners, bro. Not to mention, though, hold on, side note here. You're looking at a guy right here, and I'm not talking, I mean, I'm pretty good with it too, but this guy, when you talk about a barbecue, there's nobody better. Just had to fit that one in there, bro.
But you know what I mean? So it's like, I have to schedule them because these things are important to me, right? So
yeah,
I'll schedule in work, I schedule in my clients, and even if it's an hour or 2 every day, I schedule in, okay, what am I doing for my initiative? 1 hour, 2 hours a week where it's like, okay, I know I'm coaching soccer that night. Those 2 hours blocked off, games blocked off, right? And then you work around that, right? Like, you prioritize whatever's most important, block those off, and then you work things in between.
Yeah, we got a nice little comment here from Marielle, who's watching. Just talking about organization and giving back can be a small act, like sharing local businesses on your stories. Love that one. Great addition to that. Buying from locals as opposed to major corporations. And it's true, right? Like you can find time to make the time for whatever you find might be, most important to you. But it really does come back to what are your values as well, right? And like, what do you have going on? But I mean, again, you talk about scheduling. And I mean, you and I have both talked about this stuff, but for me, in order to get everything done, it's got to be scheduled. There's no other way to make it happen, especially when we think about the fact of how much time, because I know, and again, we've talked a lot about your initiative, and I kind of just for a moment briefly mentioned soccer coach. You're very involved with youth sports as well, right? And I know for myself doing the same thing between the hockey and the baseball and just total volunteer hours. Man, that's not revenue generator. That is like goodness of your heart giving back and just trying to help kids like, come up properly and love the game and want to come back and have fun. But time, it's only 24 hours a day for everybody, right? And so many people complain about the lack of time they have. And I truly believe most of that is probably because most people actually don't, know how to actually schedule their time.
Yeah. No, I agree, right? But again, like, it's not, and that's the thing. Like, I think once you change the approach of just focusing on straight up revenue generating activities, like, at the same time, like I'm building relationship with soccer parents, I'm building relationships in the community without having to talk about real estate. But if that topic ever does come up, or if people have questions regarding the market, like, you're in their mind share, right? You're in there, right? Where it's, why am I going to go call this guy out of the way when my kid's soccer coach, which is doing a great job or volunteering his time, let me just ask him while he's here at practice. Or, hey, you're in the community. Hey, you're at a community event. Let me just talk to you. Why am I going to go out elsewhere? It's not revenue generating, but like you say, man, you're building mindshare while you're doing these good things.
And listen, that's it. And I think that, I know for you and I know for me, we don't get involved with this stuff with the kids because of revenue. We get involved because we truly want to be there to help and put our time into it. In that same breath, it's just a byproduct that you're going to have more conversations with more people. You're going to develop stronger relationships with more people. People are going to see you as this good person who does good, be it for the community, be it for the sports team, whatever it be. Well, what do they have? They have perception that you are good, that you are trustworthy. And, again, there's the makings of a relationship. And where does that go? If it's business related or it's just personal related, the point is, there's a likability between two human beings, and for anything else to come of that could be, the bigger picture of life from again, business and or just getting together and having fun at a barbecue, right? The reality is like it's people got to like people.
Yeah.
Right. And being there and helping out and doing is what does that, so it's to everybody, just again, to the audience tuned in as we talk today about, why realtors who give back win more. I think we just actually nailed that point right there, man, is the fact that you are in front of more people. Again, I sort of, hesitate to use the word building mind share, but I got to use it. You're building a lot of mind share, but not doing it for a business revenue generator. Like it's not revenue. It's not driven by the desire to generate revenue is where I'm trying to go with that.
Yeah, no, you're building a quality of life, right? Where for me personally, coaching, I get to spend time with my daughter. I get to teach her a sport that I love. And at the same time, I get to spend and teach other kids who also want to learn the beautiful game of soccer. And then you build those personal relationships where a lot of our best friends are like, parents from soccer. We're into the same things. And it's a quality of a life where it's not just all work. And you're making time for things that matter, right? Where it's, hey, like watching my kid play for me is probably the most beautiful thing in the world when I see her having fun on the soccer field, right? Like, and that for me, that's what it's about.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I couldn't agree more on that. Just being out there and watching Joshua play baseball, watching him play hockey. Leah has soccer tonight. Can't wait to go out there and watch. It's been a couple of weeks since she's had it, so I can't wait to get back there and just watch. But I mean, it's a blast, man. And then just to be able to impact like the other kids out there and help them want to keep coming back. I think that's a big part. So I mean, here, look at the Jane and Finch Dreams initiative that you've got and the whole scholarship there. Can anybody else get involved to help support this initiative? How can people participate? And I'm not talking about kids that may want to sign up to potentially receive the scholarship. I'm talking about anybody who's here going, man, like either I grew up in that neighborhood, I know the neighborhood, I want to help that neighborhood, or just, what, this has been amazing. I don't even know the neighborhood, but I'd love to get involved and just help. Mm-hmm. Can people help? Can they get involved or just tell us more about that? Like, is there angles for that?
Absolutely. I mean, right now, I'm in the works or trying to put together an event where, I might need some volunteers or things like that. But easy, just reach out to me and we can come up with something together, right? Honestly, I do this on my spare time and able to, I'm hopefully going to create some more merchandise and sell some merchandise to have the proceeds go towards the fund. Hopefully do this event where, we can have a nice a gala dinner and things like that if people want to volunteer. Even just spreading the word, spreading the awareness, and when it comes time to donate, or if you can't, even just like Maria said, like spreading the word and things like that help go a long way as well. But probably just reach out to me. And like I said, we can talk and come up with something.
To that then, where can people find you? How can people get a hold of you?
Easiest way is probably Instagram at Ramon Realty, Facebook, Eduardo Ramon. You can shoot me an email at eduardoramonrealty@gmail.com, but easiest, most efficient way is probably Instagram at Ramon Realty. Send me a DM, and I'm always getting back to people. And and my profile is open, so you can.
Yeah, well, and I would say to everybody, go check Eddie out on Instagram. I mean, again, as he mentioned earlier on, and we kind of poked a little bit of fun and laughed at the business boring kind of posts and just real estate. He certainly does not just post real estate. There's a lot of just lifestyle. There's a lot of, who you are. And I would say too, great job out there, man, because it's definitely authentic, and knowing you personally, it's genuine. It's not, we see it all the time. The person who's like doing that, like kind of look up to the sky for no reason, or the standing in front of the car. It's all just very legit. But I think it truly does put a a perception of who you are as a person. Allowing more people to connect. And so I encourage everybody, from a one, connect with him to find out more about how you can get involved and maybe help, support, volunteer. Two, go scroll the social. I mean, just see how he's doing it. Get another idea of like, how's another realtor doing it? A guy who's been super successful, won a whole bunch of awards, contributes to the community. How's he doing it? What's he doing? How can I make my Instagram better, my branding better? Eddie will certainly, just by watching what he does, be able to help you with that. Tell me something, man. How do you know it's been a successful day for you?
Ooh, good question. How do I know it's been a successful day? Honestly, the most fulfilling days are the days where, I woke up, hit the gym, worked my leads, maybe I had a listing appointment, got the listing, couple showings, get home, change, take my kid to soccer, get to bed by 9:30. To me, those are the best days where I got, I worked on myself, worked on my career, was productive, and I still made time for the family. Those to me are the most successful days.
Zero mention of revenue, money, dollars. I love it. I love it, man.
But you said it, like the money comes as long as you're doing the right things. But if you're just focused on the money, you're going to get swayed. You're going to get discouraged. But if you're just doing the right things consistently, it will come. It's hard to, I know most people, especially if you're starting out, it's hard to believe, but if you truly implement it, it will come.
And it's amazing because you also made mention of the self-development part of it, of working on yourself.
It's key.
Working on your business, working on your family. It's all comes part of the pillars in a day, the daily method of operation. And again, just as important to be, as working on your biz is working on you, man. I love hearing that.
No, absolutely. 'Cause you're the foundation. If you're not doing well physically or mentally, it's going to affect everything else. So as long as you're taking care of yourself, that's the foundation for everything else. And like I said, everything gets easier.
Final words, tips, anything that you want to share out there, just as sort of a last takeaway here with everybody tuned in to help themselves get out there. Again, get involved with the community, help themselves grow personally, professionally. Of course, build more mind share so they could get more market share.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, well, for realtors and people in general, honestly, it's figure out your why. Figure out why you want to be successful. Figure out why you want to do things. What is the purpose? Is it for yourself? Is it financial gain? Is it your family? Is it legacy? Whatever it is, find out what your goal is in life. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. You got to figure it out because that's going to be the foundation. And that North Star you're going to follow every day, right? Find out your why, believe in yourself, and be ready to work. Strap the boots on and work. Nothing comes easy.
Love that, man. Some good final words there. Eddie, thank you, man. Thank you for making the time to be on the show. Thank you for everything you're doing for the industry. I think what you're doing for the community, is absolutely just incredible that you're making the time for it all. And I'm glad that we had the opportunity today to be able to share that with everybody on the Mindshare podcast. So thank you again for making the time.
No, thank you for having me, man. It was an honor. I appreciate it, for real.
You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you. Plus, there's a ready-to-go 90-day social media content calendar to help you build more mindshare so that you get more market share. And if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching, an in-person keynote talk for your upcoming event, and or ongoing virtual training, just get in touch with us. We'll set up a free consultation call, learn more about what you're looking to achieve, and how we will help you do just that. Also, don't forget that our push to 100 is on. All you have to do, this is super easy, is go to www.ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan101. I want to thank Virginia Munden and the Buzz Conference for sponsoring today's episode. Be sure to visit their website, www.thebuzzconference.com, and follow them on Instagram at The Buzz Conference to keep tabs on all the awesome events they are always hosting, along with getting the latest copy of the Buzz Digital Magazine. And of course, I want to thank Kids Keep in Touch Systems for sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't checked this out yet, Just go to my site, mindshow101.com, and click on marketing. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.